Bet on Bears fans, another edition of the Chicago Bears podcast coming your way. Pat the designer, Courtney Cronin in the building. We had all systems go today at practice. We got to talk about that. Of course, listen, it's Bears-Packers week. Y'all know what it is. We got to talk about what's going to happen with this offense in this game. How do they get off to a faster start? This defense, of course, the big question. Can they stop anyone? All that and more in today's episode of the Chicago Bears podcast. Hit that like button, subscribe to the page. Leave a 5-star review. Y'all know what to do. Courtney, the days are getting long, but the playoffs are here. How are you?
Good. 2 days away. This rain, I guess, is going to turn into snow. The stuff that I just drove through, apparently, that's going to be what it is. I think you'd rather have that for a game on Saturday night. Snow instead of rain.
100%.
Yeah.
No, I was talking with Devin Duvernay in the locker room today, and he was like, the worst is when you're clothes are just soaking wet and you can't get warm after that. Now, we've all been there.
Like the Eagles-Bills game from a couple weeks ago that looked absolutely miserable. And you'd probably get a 13-12 score if the weather was like that.
Yeah. It could definitely change a lot for this team, depending on what it is. Hopefully, I'd rather see snow than whatever this sleet that they're talking about might be coming through is, because that would be worst case scenario. Now you never know what's going to happen, but it does give you an opportunity to do the one thing that we feel the Bears are very strong at, establishing the run in this game. Hey, today's episode brought to you by Underdog. Make picks, win money. All right, let's start off with the injury report here, Courtney. I think this is big, very exciting. Odunze was a full go today at practice. That's the big story of the day. DJ Moore, also somebody we had to watch as well. He's been limited all week. He was a full go today with that knee. Ozzy Trapillo, a full go. Jade Walker, a full go. He was dealing with the illness, saw him in his normal, exciting Jade spirits today in the locker room. Nick McLeod, a full go, which is very big with the questionable on Kyler Gordon. Nick McLeod might take that slot corner spot just in case. Grady Jarrett was a full go. He got the old man's day of rest yesterday. And Braxton Jones and Kyler Gordon, both full, both questionable. Courtney, a very good injury report speaks highly of this. We talked about it when we heard that Kyler Gordon was going to be activated. With how you've seen the week play out, do you feel like Kyler's going to play this Sunday?
I do, and I think it's all based on what Dennis Allen said. I know, still weird getting used to that. 2 Saturday games within a month. But you don't, like I said, you don't activate a player off injury reserve. And I know he's not activated yet. You don't designate him to return to practice if he's not got a chance to play it, if you don't expect him to play. And that's exactly where this has been trending. Dennis Allen said that he is part of the game plan going in. It's just a matter of what is that snap count going to look like? Because I still think that with somebody with a soft tissue injury that he's had multiple of, you don't want him to get out there and last 2 series and then get re-injured. So you're going to have to find a way to rotate him in. Now, whether that's him starting and then going every other series, if he gets 2 series, like however they want to divvy this up, they know that they've got to be wary of his injury history, because this has happened multiple times before where he gets injured in warmups, he gets injured in practice, and then he can't go. Like, this is it. Like, this could be your only game of the postseason. And you want to make sure that you keep him as healthy as possible. The news that you mentioned on Nick McLeod being a full go. I mean, he's had an illness like that's knocked him out for the last 2 games. I wonder what his conditioning level is going to look like, because you've got receivers that you're going to have to run with. Like, they've got some speed out there on the outside in Green Bay. So, even with your nickel corner, I think that you're going to be wary of that. So that's a good sign. I imagine that what they'll do is, like, Saturday before the game, I think they did this with Tremaine Edmonds the day of the Green Bay game, actually, on that Saturday. They'll probably wait till like 3 o'clock, activate Kyler Gordon off injured reserve. He'll go through warmups and he'll start. But this is the way that their health is trending right now. They got some good breaks this week. I think the Odunze injury, this is where it's been going. Rome told us yesterday that his plan is to play. Today, you find out he has no injury designation, so he will play. How much? That's the question, because I don't think you need him to play. Like we talked about on Tuesday, I think that you don't need him to play the normal Rome Odunze snap count when healthy, when you have as many guys contributing right now in the pass game as they do. And, Jade Walker being healthy, DJ Moore shows up on the injury report, every week lately, but he's always playing. That's a good sign. And that's, I think, going to take some pressure off of Rome to feel like he has to go out there and be the healthiest version of himself when he's clearly not going to be there because he hasn't played in 5 weeks.
Yeah. The one thing I don't want to see is Caleb trying to force it to him, because when you look at the target share, I mean, Rome 90 targets. He didn't play the last 5 games. That's more than anybody else on the team. You could tell that connection at one point in the season was very high there. The one thing I don't want to see Caleb do is start to try and force it to Rome, force feed it in there to him, and forget about some of the other mouths that are out here. You got some great players on this team, especially with Colston Loveland, especially with Rome Odunze, or I'm sorry, with Luther Burden, and how they've emerged later on in this season. DJ Moore, what he's been able to do this season has been really exciting. So I'm glad to see Rome back on the field, but you want to see him fit into this system as a piece, because it does feel like over the last couple of weeks, the one thing that we've seen when the offense is going and finally gets itself started, it is a tough offense to stop. The big question coming into this week that I think is going to be massive is, how do you get it going in the first half of the game? And it was the one thing I didn't get to ask Ben today, but it's the one thing where you kind of look at Caleb Williams, and they always talk about him locking in the second half and locking in those moments. You got to be locked in from the word go, especially in a playoff game, because this Green Bay Packers team is a team that will get after you if you're not locked in by the start of this game.
And he emphasized that this week. I think that you go back to that first Green Bay game where he's sailing that ball on third down over DJ Moore's head. He was really
Yeah.
like one of his highest off target percentages of a first half at any game this season was that Green Bay game. And it wasn't great because, I mean, that was like 1 week after the game against Philadelphia where he was, I mean, the wind was a factor, the elements, all of that. But like it was like that trend carried over when they had the emotional win. They tried to flush that, but there were still some of the same issues from week to week. And I think that this is not a game where you want to like Caleb can win you this game. I think
Yeah.
I think you have seen that he can do that. He's done it multiple times this year and he's confident he can do that. But when you ran for 138 yards in Lambeau Field in elements, or at least like in like the cold a couple of weeks ago, and it came on after halftime how well they were able to establish the run. To me, it felt like that was too little too late in the first game against Green Bay. Why not try to do that knowing what success Baltimore had against Green Bay 2 weeks
Yeah.
ago in week 17 with Derrick Henry? Like there's no reason that they can't run the ball. They have the second best rushing offense in the NFL. This is supposed to be what travels in the month of January in the postseason. That has to be where the start comes from. I mean, yes, Caleb has to be precise. He has to not get into any of these quick 3 and outs where he's missing guys or there's drops, whatever it is. So I think the easiest way around that is feed Kyle Monangai and DeAndre Swift. Same sort of split that you saw the last time that those two teams played up at Lambeau, like 13 carries for Swift, 14 carries for Monangai, pretty much like almost even in terms of yardage. And when the two teams played here, Swift 13 carries, Kyle Monangai a little bit fewer, 9 carries. I don't think they ran the ball like early on as effectively as they wanted to, but by the end of the game, they ran for 150 yards. Caleb Williams was a big part of that because he was averaging a first down every time he would scramble outside the pocket. And then Monangai just kind of kept getting in a rhythm and was averaging 5.6 yards a carry at one point. So it's there. I just want to see them. I think if you're a fan, you want to see them like commit to it earlier than they have and not go away from it if it doesn't work, kind of like they did early on against Detroit.
No, 100%. You find a way to get consistent there. And I think, the part that we all look at Ben Johnson and say, you got to commit to the run more. You have to run the football more precise. Listen, like Caleb can't overthrow guys on third down when it's a 3rd and 5 and the run game didn't pick up everything that you needed on that.
Yeah.
Colston Loveland can't drop the football. Like it does go to that entire offense being locked in early on. Is the one thing we didn't see last week in Detroit that I think was the biggest issue for the team until and Ben Johnson has emphasized it over the last 2 weeks. If there's anything to talk about with this offense in the first half of the game, right? Like, is the run game going? Is the pass game synced up? Is Caleb Williams locked in? Can these guys complete third downs?
Yeah.
That's the most important thing. They have
Especially in
been
the first
terrible in third down completion in the first half over the past 3 games. That's something that's going to be massive versus the Green Bay Packers because they're one of the best 3rd and 4th down teams in the NFL right now.
2 of 12 on third down the last 3 games. And I mean, the numbers are staggering. Let me pull them up just of like what they've done in the last three first halves that they've had, including the game against the Lions. Like these numbers don't lie. The time of possession that they've been outgained by nearly 10 and a half minutes on that. Additionally, 47-21. That's how much they've been outscored in the first half of the last 3 games. The opposing team has run 125 offensive plays. They've run 59. Time of possession was 20 minutes, 21 seconds for the opposing team, 9 minutes and 38 seconds. 50-19 in first downs. It's pretty terrible. And then a 17% completion, 17% conversion rate on third down. Like, all of that's just like really, really bad. And once you start that far behind, it's why it's been like the only message we've talked about this week. We really haven't talked about anybody in specific outside of like Colston Loveland. He's become this like huge weapon for them. Obviously, you saw it in the Lions game, but there really haven't been any other storylines other than if you don't start fast, none of it matters. Like, that's ultimately against a Green Bay team that's seen you 2 different times already. In 3 times in the matter of 5 weeks, there's going to be stuff that they're going to try to pull like the wool over on you with, thinking, okay, this is a team that we know if we get them in a rut early on, we can pounce. Like, I honestly think if you're not up by 2 touchdowns at the end of the first half, that they're probably going to lose this game. I really feel like I know that they can pull out some close games. I just don't feel like that same sort of formula is going to work here. I think they've got to, opening drive, whatever the 10, 15 best plays Ben Johnson's been sitting on, waiting to use, whether it's trick plays, whether they're simple things, whatever the concept is, you have to use your best 10 to 15 openers this time. Because if you don't score on that first drive, I feel like there's going to be a lot of like, okay, here we go again sort of feeling. And you don't want that because they're capable of beating this Green Bay team. They really are. They're healthier. And on offense, I feel like they, especially with the offensive line and Ozzie Trapillo being back, like you mentioned,
that's a big one.
they can bully that defensive line. They can push people around around by running the ball.
It is going to be interesting to see because I'll say this, right? We talk about the 2 halves in Green Bay and how the Bears have struggled versus playing Green Bay or in the first half of the game, and they've struggled in first halves in totality. We don't look at it from the sense of what if it does get the clicking early, right? Like you bring up being up 2 touchdowns, that's a real possibility. Green Bay in that first half versus the Bears wasn't able to punch the ball into the end zone. You know what I mean? Like they were struggling to find 6,
and the
and
Bears
that's
had a
something
really good opening drive against the Packers at Soldier Field on the 20th of December. It just didn't yield a touchdown or anything.
And that to me is the conversation where it's like we've seen this team get off to these slow starts. If this can be a Bengals game where they're all systems go, a Dallas game where it's all systems go. By the way, that's not a crazy thing to say. This defense is bad. Like it is genuinely so banged up that it's like you got a couple of pieces there you got to worry about. Of course, Xavier McKinney's still back there. Don't put the ball near him. He can take it away. But this defense is so banged up that there's a real opportunity for the Bears to go out there and do what we saw versus Dallas versus the Bengals. I think if you can find a way to get off to a quick start, you can put Green Bay away early. They look like a team that is almost ready for the knockout. Yes, Jordan Love is coming back. Yes, you're getting Christian Watson back into this game. They will still fight throughout the game. I think this is going to be a close game. But realistically speaking, like, this is a Green Bay team that has a lot of issues, and the Bears actually come in, if you're going football things, as the better team. The thing is, we could have said that versus Detroit. We could have talked about that versus San Francisco, and we still saw them start slow in those games.
Yeah, and I think it's frustrating for the players when it feels like it's a snowball effect where they end up winning, one of those last 3 games with Green Bay, yet they can't carry over any of that. Like, it just shows you, like, the whole idea of momentum going from game to game. It's very difficult. It carries over within a game. Like, it carried over when I think they were down 28-21 at halftime against the 49ers, and they kept going back and forth, but punch for punch. But that didn't carry over. Like, the urgency of that pass game and how much they were, taking some deep shots and lining things up to be able to go after what the 49ers weren't doing, which is not pressuring them up front. None of that carried over to the Lions game. So you've got to find, it doesn't feel like there's any common theme between why the slow starts keep happening, which I think is the frustrating thing for coaches and players because it's not an easy fix. Yes, mental errors in the last game, the first 11 plays, the 6 mental errors that Ben pointed out, that's one thing. But I mean, you shouldn't be having that stuff at this time of year. You shouldn't be having penalties like that. To me, anything pre-snap, anything mental errors, wrong read, going the wrong way, receiver not being in the right spot where the quarterback thinks he's throwing the ball, that stuff can't happen. And I know that Declan Doyle said yesterday he doesn't chalk it up to nerves. Okay, then what is it? not being prepared? Like, you have to have a better answer than that, because that just won't suffice when it's the wild card round. And if we're sitting at halftime thinking, okay, how did they get down into another hole? If it's the same story, then it feels like something's broken within the offense. And
Yeah.
it shouldn't be, because we know they can score, and they can score in bunches, and they can score late. It's just the same story we've been asking all season long. Why can't they do it sooner?
That is going to be the weird thing, right? Like early in the season, it was Caleb is off target on some key passes. Middle of the season, it kind of just became, like the team was missing on third downs, and that's kind of popped back up. Or I should say, early in the season, there was pre-snap penalties that always were shooting you in the foot. Middle of the season, Caleb was dealing with the inaccuracies. End of the season, it feels like it's been third down completions. Like, it's been something different at every point. And the second you check one off of the list, something else pops up that adds to the slow start. So hopefully they're able to get off to a faster start here this coming week. I think it's going to be one that, if you do, we could be talking about this game being a feet kicked up possibly by the end of the game kind of situation for the Bears, because like I said, the Packers are a banged up team coming into this game. We'll see what ends up happening. We got to get to our underdog play of the day. I get to make my pick today. Courtney, you're still sticking with Colston Loveland?
Yep, I'm staying with Colston Loveland. I think that's a fair one. I think that even with Odunze coming back, I still feel like Colston could have a pretty impactful game.
So Colston Loveland higher than 42.5 right now. Cole Kmet higher than 14.5. Yurko picked that. That's actually gone down since then. It's higher than 11.5 right now. So that might be, I guess, I'm assuming so. I mean, that is kind of the Cole Kmet.
Yeah, I mean, look at the 2-point conversion
MO,
last
I
week.
guess. Yeah, but they are, like, every time he catches it, they are pretty big catches, right? They're 9-yard catches of stuff. So maybe that's an easy money one right there. I'm going with a Jordan Love higher than 0.5 interceptions. So basically, if he throws one pick in a game, Bears fans, this is the playoffs. It's Jordan Love. We know he's throwing at least one interception. Now, you got to make that interception count this time around, because he's thrown an interception to the team, and you did absolutely nothing with it. But if you make that interception count this time, I think that could be one that wins you the game. And by the way, like, we know, we've seen him in the playoffs. It's usually in the most important end of the game situations where Jordan Love is sitting there going, time to give the ball away. This ain't Detroit, man. This is the Super Bowl. Hey, man, download the app today. Sign up with the promo code CBP to score $75 in bonus entries when you play your first $5. That's promo code CBP. Underdog, make picks, win money. EOQ, the disclaimer.
Must be 18 years or older, 19 or older in Alabama and Nebraska, 19 or older in Colorado for some games, 21 or over in Arizona, Massachusetts, and Virginia, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/play and get terms _DFS_.html for details. Offer not valid in Maryland, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. In New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369.
I love that my husband's so handy. He leaves more money for the important stuff. Whoa. Gosh darn it, Steve.
Oh. Don't be like Steve. Call Avondale Roofing. DIY is for Pinterest, not your roof.
Welcome back into the Chicago Bears podcast. Appreciate y'all for tuning in and showing love. As always, today's episode always brought to you by Advantage as well. The Advantage Dealer Group finds you next Chevy, Toyota, or Acura and drive off in under 60 minutes, and they'll make your first car payment. Also brought to you by the Hard Rock Casino in Northern Indiana. Las Vegas-style gaming, just 30 minutes from Soldier Field, exit 6, right off of I-80-94. All right, Courtney, since we last talked, we got to hear from Dennis Allen a little bit, and he seemed so tired of talking about how bad the defense played in the last game, even though that seems like it's going to be a pretty big storyline heading into this game. Let's start off with the conversation that maybe is the biggest mystery on this team, because you bring up, right, Kyler Gordon maybe on a snap count. Nick McLeod is not really a guy that we feel great about, although he has played solid out there. There's a big name that's on this defense that seems like it's no longer on this defense. Any update on what's going on with Tyrique Stevenson in this whole thing, and is he still a part of this team?
Dennis Allen said there is a plan in place for Tyrique Stevenson with this game. I think that plan will be him not starting again.
I was going to say, is that plan him sitting on the sideline with a hat on?
Like, it's such a weird thing, because when you think of how much man coverage they played last week, I thought that's where Tyrique Stevenson would match up best, honestly. But like, I think multiple things can be true here. Yes, Nashawn Wright throughout the season has played really good football. I mean, the guy turned his career around in 1 year. And yes, there have been times where he's gotten burned pretty badly,
100%.
last week being one of them, but he's played really good football and he's been solid. And they've said, like, every step along the way, if you're looking for context clues, Ben Johnson and Dennis Allen said he's a guy that you're not going to want to take off the field. It's going to be really
100%.
difficult, like, once the other guys get healthy and come back. It's a good problem to have, but it is a problem nonetheless. Additionally, with Jalen Johnson coming back, every time that his snap count increased, Tyrique Stevenson's went down. So I think both of those things with Wright and with Johnson and how it affects Stevenson are true. But I also think that they've learned something here. This is a 17-game sample size, and Tyrique missed a game or two with the hip injury, I believe.
Yes.
But you still have 18 weeks now to look at this player and decide whether he's a fit in your defense. The fact that for the last game of the season, he's not playing, I think that's a red flag. I do. And it's not to say that he won't have any role on this defense, but I certainly don't think it'll, if you're listening to Dennis Allen say, ride the hot hand, that's what they're doing, then that means he's not starting. And that means he's in a reserve role. And, maybe some of this has to do with Jalen Johnson's health. Like if we see Tyrique Stevenson against Green Bay in any capacity, Jalen said yesterday, he's not at 100%. And like, it's kind of like almost like a quit asking sort of question, because he's not going to be at the level that he was at previously until he has a whole off season to recover. So maybe that opens up the door for Tyrique Stevenson to play more, but I don't know. Jalen Johnson played 72 of 73 snaps last week. That would lead me to believe that he can handle a lengthy game if he has to, and that might mean Tyrique Stevenson doesn't do much.
Here's my question on all of that, though, right? Like, and listen, DA is never going to give us the answer this season. We'll find out, honestly, when we see who's on this team next year, about probably what the real answer is there. But like, we can't have the conversation on, well, Tyrique Stevenson is getting burned and there's no way you can go to him because Deshaun Wright's getting burned. Jalen Johnson is getting burned. Amon-Ra St. Brown is still catching passes on this defense right now. Like, there's no way you can say play-wise that somebody has underperformed. CJ Gardner got cooked all day, and then when he got hurt, you still didn't go to Jalen Johnson. You end up going to Jalen Jones, Jalen Jones, nice player, but right, like not the guy that you thought was going. I should have said Tyrique Stevenson, and not the guy that you thought was going to get those snaps all of a sudden. Like, this feels bigger in my mind than just we felt like it was a numbers game that worked out for us.
Yeah,
this feels like something where you're out of the play.
Yeah, it feels like that's the convenient, politically correct answer to a complex situation that probably is a lot of different things, but ultimately is pointing to this player isn't the right fit for what they're asking of their cornerbacks. And it's kind of surprising because he was like, after the first 2 weeks of the season, it felt like Tyrique was getting into a nice rhythm.
Yeah.
And it felt like he made some really good plays. I mean, the interception, I know it was a while ago, but the interception he had against the Raiders was one of the more athletic plays that I feel like I saw all season from any DB. However, it's been a while since then, and there's a lot of time that's passed and a lot of football that's been played. So I think that there's, all of those things considered, they probably have a look now at him and say, we've gotten what we need to out of him. He may not be a starter because we have two other players that we would anticipate being better fits as a starter. Because it's just, at this point, it's pointing to Deshaun Wright gets a contract extension. Tyrique Stevenson, while he's got one more year on his deal, like, is kind of the odd man out at that point.
Yeah. We'll see what ends up happening. Here's the thing. We got to talk about some of the people that can make an impact on this defense. Courtney, what's going to be the big key to slowing down Jordan Love in this defense this week with what we know? I mean, realistically, there's not going to be a pass rush, right? All the Packers defensive line is offensive line is banged up. So's the last two offensive lines you played. You lost Trent Williams one play into San Francisco, and Brock Purdy had 9 seconds to get there. What are we going to see from this team? Is it going to be bend but don't break again?
They're good in the red zone. That was their only saving grace from that game. And then the last time they played the Packers at Soldier Field. I don't think you want to live in that space. I honestly, going into this game, I don't think Matt LaFleur is going to make the same mistake that he did the last time Green Bay played at Lambeau Field, the last time their starters played. And, what he did with Josh Jacobs on that Saturday night game was stupid. Like, he ran him 4 times for 3 yards. How does that happen? How do you can't come away with 17 carries when like a lot of those are like, scramble attempts from Malik Willis and some designed runs, but like your number one back who was healthy does that? So I think that they're going to have,
I mean, yeah, but
they're going to
he was out there.
They're going to have an intention to get him downhill and get him downhill quickly. So I think this game, this is a pretty, like if the pass rush is what it is, and we know that turnovers, as much as they say that that's what they're built on, they can be kind of fluky. I think this is the game where you absolutely need your run fits and your linebackers to make their hay. This has to be a Tremaine Edmonds, TJ Edwards. That this has to be like their time.
Go with DeMarco Jackson out there if you can.
Yeah, I mean, they if they need to play him, they know that he can play. This has to be a big game from the middle of the defense, because I think that what we know with Jordan Love, might he be rusty, might he not? I think that both could vary. I think he'll probably lean towards rust because he hasn't played in a month pretty much. So all of that said, this to me is the time for Matt LaFleur to lean on the run game and the time for the Bears linebackers to show up.
With what we know about what the weather's expected to be, could this be a game where we see them take the ball out of the hands of the quarterbacks in this? Like, we're talking about Caleb Williams, we're talking about Jordan Love, but is this a Swifty Monangai versus Jacobs in the running crew they have over there kind of game?
Didn't we think that would happen, though, up at Lambeau?
We think that's going to happen every time we go up against a bad run defense, and then we end up seeing Caleb Williams throw it 35 times.
It's just, in theory, all of those things should be true, which is why I think that the Bears almost go like opposite that every time that we expect there to be a strong day for the running game. But the stakes are different now. You don't have next week. It's not guaranteed. So you got to get there first. Getting there with two running backs that are healthy, neither have been on the injury report in a few weeks, which is a great sign considering DeAndre Swift had the groin injury and it's been something he's been dealing with. Kyle Monangai gets, a lot of lower body stuff just because he's such a hard hitting dude that I think it's a great way to, when you start talk about new identity, new season, next 5 weeks, lock in, start with your run game, start with what your bread and butter is. Like, this is what gets you off to the start without having to do anything too creative or too much early on.
Yeah, that's going to be big, and it's been an issue for the Bears defense. It's something they're going to have to shore up. Hopefully getting Kyler Gordon back onto the field. I mean, listen, when you look at the numbers of when Kyler Gordon's on the field versus off the field, I know we don't really do on-off numbers as much in football as we do in basketball, but it is shocking how much better the Bears defense is with him on the field. I think that's going to be a massive thing in this game, just slowing down Josh Jacobs. And the one thing that we know that we haven't seen since he's been out is Kyler Gordon's willing to tackle.
Yeah.
Like, that. If there's one skill set that we know he's got, he's going to throw his head in there and try and get a guy down. So I'm hoping that we see a little bit better game here. I do still have this close. Courtney, I think I said 28-27. I've got the Bears winning this game. How do you feel like this game ends in Soldier Field this coming Saturday?
It's like, I know it opened as a pick'em, and I understand why. I feel like this will be the time, if there's any time for them to like set the tone that they're a different team than the one that like always has to fight its way back. Because I think that some people have made good points that the fourth quarter comeback teams are usually the ones that are first out of the playoffs. Yeah. And if the Bears if they are just a byproduct of getting lucky and having, some good success late in games, being able to trust guys for sure with execution, but also being able to, take the breaks that come your way. If that magic ends on Saturday, you'll know why, because that's going to be another situation where they don't get off to a fast start. But because there's been such an emphasis on the fast start, I think they win, I'll say 28-24, which I know it's closer than I would say. Like, I think they realistically could get off to a 2-touchdown lead, and because of the way this defense is playing, blow that. But if you can play some bend, don't break at the end of the game, then you can go into the divisional round and host another game.
No, 100%. You get off to a quick start. And listen, in my mind, and I know it sounds crazy, best case scenario is ball in the hand of Jordan Love.
Yep.
Because you can't stop the run game with what we've seen. So hopefully this Bears team is able to find a way to win. And we are still doing a playoff podcast this time next week. Appreciate y'all for tuning in and showing love. As always, for Courtney Cronin, it's your boy Pat the Designer, back at it again. Let us know your score prediction down in the comments below. Be me and J-Mac tomorrow, man. Y'all stay safe out there, Chicago. Bed down. One love. Peace.